I'm feeling rather unlucky not to win anything this season with how well we've been playing. A lot of goals, including from the two main loaned out players in Consigli and Makoko, who have developed very well. Consigli can now definitely come into the rotation and really help us out next season. I'm still a little uncertain on Makoko though, simply because of how good the rest of the team is. The Bulgarian 6'6" Ranchev though will be coming back into the midfield rotation after playing very well for Napoli this season. And I also want to keep Ivan around next season as he looks like a quality defender in the centre and on the left. We haven't checked the finances for a while. There's only £113 million left to pay off for the loan. Liverpool are back though, bidding for Pedri, and unfortunately they need reminding that he has that £115 million release clause in his contract for a reason. And I ain't going to accept anything less for the attacking midfielder. Although he does have a year left on his current deal, so to be safe, I'm going to offer him a new deal and keep that £150 million release clause in there, as I'd be happy for him to go for that cost anyway. Undecided whether to keep Mbomio around or loan him out again, as he's not quite first team ready for us yet, but could be a good fringe player. My scouts though have done it again though, finding an insane attacking midfielder for a very cheap valuation, probably because he's in the Belgian division right now at Ghent. I couldn't resist him and I got a £21 million offer accepted and agreed to a nice contract with him to bring him to the new camp. Just 20 years old as well. This signing also made sense because Gavi is in the last year of his contract and is very unhappy about not winning the league and wanted by Liverpool, which means he also doesn't want to renew his contract either. So I think I've got to cash in while I can, so I offer him out for a transfer. I need a good backup goalkeeper, and Mamadashvili has a ridiculously low release clause on him. And that's when I realised that Valencia were relegated last season, which I completely missed if I'm honest. On the same day as both De Jong and Leao announced their contract extensions, Gavi's decided he wants to stay. So I'm not complaining, let's get a new contract on the table and signed and have the best midfield in the world. Interesting offer from Villarreal for Makoko. It's only a loan but with an optional future fee and could go up to £33 million, but they are saying they want to play him as a regular starter, so I'm actually going to accept this deal. PSG offered a similar deal but only as a squad player, so that's a no from me. We once again start the season off with a bang. Just kidding. We lost 1-0 to Girona. Also, considering we had no injuries, it was a strange team sheet with him choosing Ivan over Kalulu and Koundé at centre-back. The academy player is good, it's just still a bit unexpected really. In the second game, Nascimento backed his choice and it seemed to pay off. We needed a bit of luck to get ourselves ahead with our first goal, with Balde's shot looping over the goalkeeper. But then it was back to our usual best. Pedro Pereira knocking in our second goal. Good to get him on the score sheet early, and then Mbomio off the bench to snatch the third. Still no goal contributions for Leao though. Champions League fixtures are in and we've got Liverpool first game and Manchester City at the Etihad. Deadline day came and Bayern Munich are putting in a £54 million bid for Al Jahani, which I'm rejecting. A second bid of £72 million came in and it's still not good enough for me. Deadline day passed and I just made 2 signings. Another win going into our hardest game so far against Atletico Madrid, which didn't have a goal in it until Nicholas Jackson scored for Atletico deep into the second half, but we fired back almost immediately with a fantastic ball over the top for Consigli to equalise. And then the Italian forward got a second 10 minutes later to put us back into the lead, but in the 93rd minute, Bruno Fernandes popped up with a clutch second for Atletico and it was 2-2. Straight into the Champions League days later and Pedri, who has been on Liverpool's radar for the last 2 seasons now, scores against them at the new camp. Brilliant. But we couldn't double our lead and unfortunately, Gabi Jesus got an equaliser to kick off our campaign. 3 draws in a row as we got another 2-2, this time to Villarreal. To the most hilarious own goal as well in the 86th minute while we were 2-1 up. Like, what is that? But at least we won the Catalan derby 4-0. Fun enough, it puts both us and Real Madrid on 11 points as they've had a bad start too, with Sevilla and Betis both at the top of the table. Penalty in the Champions League against Leipzig and Pereira steps up and smashes it down the middle. In the second half, we luckily kept it 0-0 until Andros worked a bit of magic and scored the first goal of the game. And the floodgates opened then, and as Al Jahani nutmegged the goalkeeper, he made it 2. And once again, probably one of the best players in the world, Andros, makes it 3 off the post. Which was also the same result in Copenhagen in the next game. We clashed against top of the league Sevilla, and they continued their good run of form and went 1-0 up. But the striker for this game for us was Mbomio, who came in with an equaliser as the game finished 1-1. 2 other wins in this month in the league without conceding a goal as well. but that was still only good enough for 6th place, with Betis overtaking Sevilla at the top, but playing one more game than them. But we just keep grinding out good results. And some good individual performances too, including against Getafe with his hat-trick from Ansu Fati. The result was a great 6-1 win, but he was the star man of the match, and even though the final goal was a penalty, still a good one. We kept winning games, putting us in the best form for El Clasico. Before then, Roma in the Champions League, and Baldanzi fired them in the lead on the hour mark. Luckily though, Balde was released down the wing, and his exceptional cross was met by Andros, whose unreal header nestled in the net. But all smiles disappeared when in the 92nd minute, Timothy Weah popped up with a second for Roma. However, in the 95th minute, there was still time for late drama as Pedri smashed in a late equaliser. The Etihad wasn't quite as good. We were 2-1 up within 3 minutes to go and lost somehow. Anyway, league-wise, second behind Betis, but with a game in hand and only a point, but it's time for El Clasico. Champions League currently sat in the playoff positions after 5 games. And El Clasico was chaotic as ever, with a deadlock being broken 27 minutes in from a Real Madrid own goal. However, almost from the kickoff, a deep cross was met by Vinicius Jr., whose header brought the game back level. Right on the stroke of half-time, another Barcelona attack and a blocked volley from Andros fell to Pereira, who put us back in the lead. And just after half-time, we were rubbing our hands in excitement after Rafael Leao put us 3-1 up. But with this being at the Bernabeu, it was never going to be easy, and Militao gave Real Madrid hope. Hope that was kept until the 90th minute when Brazilian Endrick equalised, killing our 3-1 lead that we had minutes earlier. Overall, it was a great response after this disappointment, and we went on to win 4-0 at Villa Park in the Champions League. So I was wildly confident going into the game against Betis, especially with Pereira putting us a goal ahead just 9 minutes in. But then the wheels really started to fall off as Satriano pulled it back to 1-1 before half-time. And a couple of set-piece goals later, and all of a sudden, we found ourselves 3-1 down. Hopefully, though, a comeback, right? Nope, wrong. Rodri made it 4-1, and in the 79th minute, Umar Sadiq made it 5-1, and that is why Real Betis are not to be messed with. But our fantastic run of form outside of that put us top of the league, although it's very tight with Villarreal on the same points, and Betis could also join us on that 40 points too. At the turn of the new year, it's Pereira who is topping the goal scoring charts with 19 goals in 19 games, and it's good to see Makoko scoring well while out on loan. Pedro Pereira's growth, though, for a 20-year-old has been absolutely outrageous too. Already one of the world's best strikers, and again, he's 20. Speaking of world's best, we finally have a different Ballon d'Or winner, as Brian Cherki of Bayern Munich wins this year, but Rafael Leao did finish in 3rd place. Although the year started off with an extremely late goal from Andros, January was bloody perfect, beating Real Madrid in the Supercopa final 3-1. Progressing through the Copa del Rey, albeit in extra time, and spanking Rangers in the Champions League 5-0, in which Pedro Pereira also scored 4 goals too, to then hammering Sporting in the Champions League 7-0. And no shock really, but Pereira got 4 goals in this game too. All the while, we were keeping a 100% record this month in the League 2, meaning that we racked up 8 wins in a row. In La Liga, this sat us on the exact same record as Real Betis after 21 games, with our players dotted all over the player stats. In the Champions League, it was a big rescue to sit us in the top 8, meaning we wouldn't have to play that extra round and could rest instead. We bounced Oviedo out of the Copa del Rey next comfortably, but then that's when we got the unlucky draw to face Real Madrid, but lucky enough to get an own goal in our favour. They equalised 4 minutes later though through Vinicius Jr., but the game went to penalties, and that's where it all went wrong unfortunately, because Real Madrid, they didn't miss any penalties, but we missed 3, and it didn't even get to the last of the 5 takers before we were completely eliminated. So in the next game against Atletico, we just paid the goalkeeper to move out of the way of the penalty. Simple. In fact, the whole game was rather scrappy, and I was worried when they pulled a goal back to make it 2-1, but then Upamecano scored a 3rd in the 94th minute. Happy days. Andros was in exceptional form, smacking in a free kick against Espanyol, and in a 3-0 win, he picked up 2 goals and a man of the match. Outside of the Real Madrid Cup tie, it was another great month, and now our eyes turn to the Champions League, where we pulled Aston Villa in the draw, a team we already beat. Still under Unai Emery, they've built a very interesting young side full of talent. I had my eyes on their left back a couple of seasons ago in fact, but we never pulled the trigger. And before our trip to Villa Park, we were in top form, beating Sevilla 3-0. But we did not take that form to Villa Park, as Marcus Leonardo gave Villa the lead just 10 minutes in, and actually the young Brazilian doubled their advantage before half-time and we were in big trouble. We had to rely on a 94th minute consolation goal by Pedro Porro in this first leg. My optimism in the second leg increased because it only took us 10 minutes to get on the score sheet and level the aggregate score. But that didn't last too long because Marcus Leonardo scored his third of the tie, giving Villa the lead again. But we can all hail the 6'7" Anderson, who has been playing in the B team, who came off the bench and scored in the 96th minute. Taking this tie into extra time where we broke the Villa hearts as Ansu Fati scored the last goal of the tie. That was a real close one. But guess who we pulled in the next round? Bloody Real Madrid, of course. We also started to take a dip in our league form, losing 2 on the spin against Vallecano and Villarreal, meaning Real Betis could actually leapfrog us if they win their game in hand. But they were going to have to be great because we just kept winning after this, however. It was back to the Champions League at the Bernabeu, and Real Madrid carved us open and scored through Pedro Neto. We didn't quit, however, kept pushing and eventually got ourselves a goal from Rafael Leao's header to go into the second leg 1-1. And at the Nou Camp, we played the beautiful football we knew we could, and within 6 minutes Andros was putting the ball into the Madrid net. We couldn't add to this though, and in the second half, Endrick's shot crept in off the bar to take the game into extra time. But this is where we stayed composed, and Consigli's run was excellent down the left, and the cutback was scored by Pedro Pereira, and we avoided penalties this time round. Weirdly, we played Real Madrid again in the league right after, and we bashed them 6-2. And against Sociedad next, we snatched 3 points of a late goal from Rafael Leao, which actually gave us a 10-point lead in the league, and somehow Betis have fallen off a cliff. They've dropped 8 points in their last 4 La Liga games. And as fate would have it, we play them next to win the league title back from Real Madrid's hands. The Champions League gave us Manchester City in the semi-final draw, and Al Jahani put us in a spot above her because he got himself sent off in the first leg after 26 minutes. To pile on the misery, Yeremy Pino scored on the hour mark to make the challenge even harder, but Nascimento's tactics have definitely been a lot better this season, and Pedro Pereira equalised, and in the 93rd minute, we still kept putting the pressure on City, and Fabio Moretti smashed home a second to give us the advantage going into the second leg at 2-1. A very important 2 games in front of us now. Kicking things off in the Betis game with a couple of fantastic set-piece goals, with the first coming from Ansu Fati giving us the first half lead. Doubled by the Bulgarian Ranchev, who rose tallest from the corner. Betis have been fantastic this season and carried on fighting to the end, even scoring a goal, but Nascimento has done it. Barcelona are champions of Spain once again. He just needs to get us into that Champions League final for a 3rd season in a row, however. Erling Haaland has other ideas. Not only did he equalise the aggregate score, but within 20 minutes, he puts Manchester City into the lead. But another worldy free kick from Andros, a penalty from Pereira, and great play from this Barcelona side. In this second, we were leading 3-2 on the night before half-time. After all that chaos, we needed a security blanket, and Pedri gave us that in the 70th minute. And although Manchester City scored again on the 81st, we held on to the 4-3 win on the night and the 6-4 win on aggregate, giving us a showdown at the Stadio Olimpico against Arsenal in the Champions League final. The last 2 league games before the final was also wins, and Nascimento has got us purring going into our 3rd Champions League final in a row. And as just a director of football with no career stats whatsoever, I've just got to sit back and cross my fingers. On this day though, our 3rd attempt, just 1 goal happened, scored in my opinion by the best player in the world, Jose Eduardo Andros, in the 16th minute, helping Barcelona finally lift the Champions League. And Luis Nascimento has finally done it, with the help of me as the director of football, bringing the best players I could possibly find, only using profit made from the players I sold already at the club. Thankfully, these things that we love now are finally picked and played and allowed to develop, and Barcelona have well and truly reaped the rewards. All the while having the money in the bank again and really clearing 90% of the debt that the club had when I started this journey. And yes, it did take 7 seasons, but just as a director of football, Barcelona are European champion. Mission well and truly complete.